think it's a uniquely Australian thing, but Australians tend not to. They don't really pay much attention to their footwear. So it's very rare that you would find people that are wearing shoes that are interesting, or the shoes kind of reflect some aspect of their character. You would like to think that, but it's not always the case. Before I was shoemaking, I worked as a photographer for 10 years. I freelanced, and I was working in London at the time. And I had a freelance commission to photograph a shoemaker by the name of Paul Harnden. And I decided after that I should come back to Australia and learn how to make shoes. Yeah, I'm always curious about the person that invented the sewing machine. It kind of really revolutionised clothing. When I first started making shoes, I went and studied with John Lobb in London. John Lobb's they're kind of like the original bespoke men's footwear company. They're in St James's in London. And I went to John Lobb and I said, I'd like to learn how to make shoes the Lobb way. And he said, oh my boy, you'll need a lifetime. So he was right, you do. It takes a long time. The perfect shoe, well, the Shangri-La of all shoes is a tough one. The elements that make a good shoe are the materials, the quality of the materials, so high quality leather materials, whether it's the sole or the heel, the construction, so the way those materials are put together and they're assembled, the fit, so the quality of the fit, the way it sits on your foot, supports your foot, gives you comfort, puts a spring in your step, and then the appearance, the way the shoe looks, the style, the way that it shows your foot off, shows off your outfit, the way it makes you feel, really, that's the shoe. If you can get all those elements going at once and they're in balance, I think you're pretty close. This sewing machine's pretty old, but it's not really about age with machines. This is one area where technology doesn't really improve on the quality of the stitching. The shoe has a kind of temporary life on the shelf, but when the possessor puts their foot in it, it transforms them. They have a whole other life, and that's the really great thing about shoes is that one person can put your shoes on and they can transform them, whereas another person can put them on and they can, make them really dull, When you can get people to buy your designs, doing the style and design that you like, it's just so much more fun. What I like most about Paddington is, and I would probably say most about William Street in Paddington, is that essentially William Street is it's a residential street, and it has a number of homes that have been converted to commercial properties, which have everyone from artists to hat makers to general women's fashion retail. It seems more like a community, and it's less of a retail shopping street. So I think the thing I really like about it is the intimacy, and I think people know about Paddington as a destination enough in Australia as a place to come and see interesting fashion retail. When you're working with footwear and shoes and making shoes all day, it's very difficult not to be judgmental about what someone is wearing in terms of their footwear. And, quite often I have to pull myself back and say, hey, maybe, shoes is not an interesting part of their them as a person. So the things that most concern me about, I would say almost 99% of footwear in the marketplace, is that the footwear is designed for a very short period of time. It's designed to a price, and it's designed for a specific season or trend. So all the kind of core aspects of shoemaking that I like to have with my brand are not existence. So manufactured shoes the materials are not sustainable. They're not designed to last. They design them so you throw them out after 6 months. So consequently, we have all these shoes that maybe people wear once or twice, or they don't wear because they don't feel comfortable in them. They end up in some kind of rubbish heap somewhere, and they're not biodegradable. So that's just one of many things in our life that contributes to the amount of rubbish we create. The other thing too is I just think the styling of the shoes, they're not very well made. So that's what I don't like about it. That, you know, they don't make them so you can repair them, you know. You know, it's very rare to see anyone do this by hand. Everyone has machines, but I mean, machines are only necessary if you're doing thousands of pairs a year, and I'm lucky to do 500, 600 pairs a year. I like the idea that you can have a pair of shoes and you buy a pair of shoes and you have them for a lifetime. So you might buy them and you love them for 2 years, and if for some reason you're not interested in them and you get into some different kind of trend, and then 3 years later you come back to them and you pull them out of your wardrobe again, you know, and you can wear them. So I like to design my shoes to last for at least 10 years, but also I like to use really special and different materials, and I don't think most commercial footwear does that. I mean, look, I don't expect everyone to buy my shoes. I mean, I would be foolish to think that. I'm not designing for everybody. And people say to me, well, you're designing for an elite. And my response to that is, I think that's total rubbish. I'm not designing for an elite. I'm just designing for people who appreciate something different. And there's nothing particularly elitist about that. Look, I really love handmade things. I love the tactility. I love the unique aspect of a handmade product, and also the idea of it too. To be able to know that someone has actually made that, whether it's a pair of shoes or it's a bag or an object, if it's handmade, for me that has a very high, it means so much more to me than just being the object. You know, it imbues the character of the maker, and then the possessor of that object transforms it in the way that they use it. So that whole process I really like. I think I'm still striving to get better. I've been doing it now for 21 years. And so I think I'm almost 50 now. I think I'd probably hit my peak when I'm 60. I think I've got about another 10, 11 years to go before I get there. I do see myself doing this forever. There's nothing else that I could do, nothing else that I'd be interested in doing. I think I'm rather fortunate that I can have this lifestyle. I can make all my own shoes and I can manage the business at a certain level. I don't really want to become big. You know, I don't want to have 20 staff. So I think at this stage of my life, I'm very happy with it.